Alright, so today I want to talk about snake eggs in the incubator. And let me tell you, if you're breeding ball pythons or any other type of snake, a lot of times you'll get halfway through the breeding season and your incubator will start filling up with eggs. You start thinking, hey, I'm having a pretty good year. Those snake eggs are like money in the bank. And let me tell you, you don't want to get to the point where you start counting your snakes before the eggs actually hatch. And I kind of ran into that problem this year. I'd say normally on a normal year, I lose about 5% of my eggs due to a variety of different reasons. I'd say probably one of the number one things is a lot of times you'll get mold on certain eggs. Sometimes the mold can kind of get out of control and the egg will just die and the shell will get completely fuzzy. And most of the times I'll just kind of pull it out and throw it away, stinking up my whole incubator. And then sometimes they can kind of trick you because the snake will actually fully develop in the egg, and then right before it hatches, for whatever reason, it doesn't cut itself out of the egg and it'll die inside of the shell, and you'll have a DOA, which I've seen quite a few times. Probably, I'd say probably the second most cause of losing eggs in the incubator. Sometimes if you have a humidity problem, that'll do it too. But I'd say in an average year, it's usually about 5%. And this year, I had a whole bunch of eggs in the incubator. I should have known, I was actually pulling all these eggs from Lucy. As soon as she was laying them, I filled the incubator with 49 eggs. And as a matter of fact, I was just doing a video about it just a few days ago and went through all the different eggs and we were looking at them. I was thinking I was doing really good until I went back a couple days later and looked at those eggs, and I started scratching my head thinking, I haven't actually candled these eggs. And when I pulled those eggs from Lucy, I didn't candle them either. And as a matter of fact, there's people in the comments asking me, hey, why didn't you candle those eggs? And I thought, man, these eggs look really good. How can they be bad? And it kind of reminds me of last year. I had my pied female, a Ball Python, that laid a whole clutch of eggs. Really beautiful, pearly white clutch of eggs. All the eggs looked really good. And then when I went to candle those eggs, none of them had veins, which is kind of unusual because if you get an infertile egg from a ball python, usually it'll be a smaller egg. They call it a slug, and it's really easy to tell the difference between a slug and a fertile egg just by looking at the egg. And in that case, she laid a whole clutch of what looked like really good eggs, but all of them were completely infertile. And I put them up in the incubator and they all just molded right away, and none of them developed any veins at all. So I was actually going through all my eggs from Lucy through my incubator just a couple days after I did that video. And I decided, hey, I want to candle these eggs just to kind of check it out. And sure enough, I went through and a whole bunch of them were not fertile and not developing. All the ones that had fungus and mold all over them, they didn't have any veins at all in them. And it's kind of, I'd say it's a really unusual thing to actually get an egg that looks like it's fertile, but it's infertile. I was talking to some really big ball python breeders, and I was telling them about my pied female, and they said out of all the clutches, thousands and thousands of clutches of ball python eggs, they've only ever had one like that, where they had normal looking eggs that were in fact all slugs, infertile eggs, and kind of trick you. So today I want to go back through my eggs. I want to show you how I actually candle these eggs. You don't even have to really touch them in the egg box. And someone left a comment under one of my videos when I was doing those eggs. They said, hey, I just put all the eggs in the egg boxes, put them in the incubator, and then after 30 days, which is right now is about 30 days, they go back in and candle them. And at that point, they figure out the good eggs from the bad eggs. So what we're going to do today is we're going to go and look at how many eggs are good and how many eggs are bad. And let me tell you, I was definitely counting my eggs before they hatched. I lost quite a few eggs from putting infertile eggs into those egg boxes. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna start pulling some eggs and we'll candle them and see what the results are. All right, so here is my 6-foot tall ball python and now reticulated python egg incubator. I just have one clutch from ball pythons from an albino cross to an albino pied. That was kind of a random early ball python clutch, earlier than I've ever seen. And then the rest of them are all from Lucy, all reticulated pythons. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna start pulling out boxes and let's check out these eggs again. All right, so I'm gonna start with this box of reticulated python eggs here. And since the last video, I've actually changed my approach as far as the press and seal. So in the last video, I was talking about making a little gap right at the corner for air exchange. And the problem is on some of my boxes, especially these retics, it seemed like I was losing so much humidity that my boxes were really dry. And I'm always worried about enough air exchange through these boxes. So I kind of wanted to crack it. So someone in the comments actually mentioned this. They said, hey, why don't you completely seal it for the first majority of the incubation, and then the last week and a half or 2 weeks, then go in and crack it. That's a fantastic idea. And that way, you know, at the beginning, you don't really have to worry about that much air going in because they're just developing. And then towards the end, once they get more mature, you know, to prevent some of the DOAs in the shell. All right, so I wanted you to check this out. So take a look at this. At first glance, these look like beautiful eggs. Don't they look fantastic? They look like they were just laid. They've been in there for a whole month. So, you know, if you think about pulling eggs like this from a reticulated python, you know, when you first pull them, they look really fantastic. And then after a whole month, you start thinking, hey, these must be really good, because, you know, usually like with ball python eggs, if they're infertile, they start molding right away. So this is kind of deceiving as far as what you're looking at right here. So I want to show you what I discovered with my flashlight. So I'm going to turn on my flashlight. I'm going to turn off some of these lights here, and we'll do a little candling of these eggs. So take a look at this, if you can actually see it. So the best way to do this is, let's see if I can zoom in here. Okay, you can see the veins. You can kind of cup your hand right around the eggs and you can see veins. That is a good egg right there. So take a look at this one. You can kind of cup your hand right around it and you see the veins in the egg. That is a good egg. And then take a look at this one. If I can get it on the camera here. That's a good egg right there. You can see some veins. All right, so take a look at this egg. Nothing, no veins in that one. So take a look at this one right here. Completely clear, no veins in that one. Take a look at this one. No veins in that one. Oh, that is brutal right there. That is brutal. That's half my eggs in that box are non-fertile. Have you ever seen anything like that? That's the craziest thing I've ever seen, even though they look like fantastic eggs. So in there, I put the X's on the bad eggs, which is pretty amazing because you would think they would start molding. Well, this one's actually molding a little bit on the bottom. You can see right there, which is really unexpected. They don't smell. Well, you can definitely see they're molding on the bottom, but maybe because my box was so dry. I don't think I'm getting mold on these good eggs though. Let's take a look at this. Look at that. You can flip your eggs over. You know, if there's mold on the bottom, they're bad eggs. I'm almost tempted just to pull them out right now because it's not even worth incubating. It's such a heartbreaking situation. You know, I was definitely counting my eggs before they hatched. I thought for sure I had that many eggs in the incubator. Come to find out, it's not as many as I actually thought. All right, so I made a decision. I'm gonna pull all my bad eggs. I'm gonna check them one last time and I'm gonna pull them. There's no sense having, looks like all these might be good. I'm gonna check all these one more time. I don't have any X's on them. I definitely don't want to pull a good egg and mark it as a bad egg. So you can actually, if I can zoom in here a little bit, and what I do is I just kind of cup my hand right around the egg, and you can see that one has veins, that one has veins, and this one has veins. You can see that one has veins in that one. This one's really good. And then this one is Really good too. Kind of hard to see. I suppose I could pick them up. You could probably just pick them up and candle them that way too. But that's the, look at that. The weird thing is normally you candle them from the bottom. I've candled eggs before from the bottom. This, you can't see it all candling from the bottom with these. So at first I was kind of puzzled on how do I candle. Then I just held the light up to the top and I was like, wait a minute, you can actually candle them right from the top. And it's the easy way to do it, which is pretty awesome. All right, so here is another box of eggs, reticulated python eggs. And these, looks like these are all good. I'm just gonna check them real quick here. Just to make sure. That looks good. And if you actually go through them real quick, you can actually see them really super easy to just verify, just like that. That's you can go through and just check them real quick, no problem at all. All right, so here's some more reticulated python eggs. We'll check these real quick. And for me, yes, this is like money in the bank. This is what I live on because I breed snakes for a living. So it looks like I have an X on one of them. So let's just verify so I don't throw away a good egg here. If I can find the switch to the light over here, maybe. And the way I've just been putting my my hand, look at that, it's completely clear on that one. This one has veins, this one's good. You know, the funny thing is on some of these, when I hold the light up to it, I almost see like something squiggling around in there, like it's light sensitive, like a little snake that's light sensitive. So just this one egg right here with the X on it, that is the bad one. I'm gonna pull that one out. So this is kind of interesting too. When I pulled these eggs from Lucy, she was laying them and a lot of them were really gooey and goopy. And I put them together side by side. Oh, this one, look, only a little bit of mold after a whole month, which is pretty surprising. But take a look at that. These stuck together like a clutch that's been stuck together from laying the eggs. Boy, that makes me nervous just pulling those apart. So usually I go kind of back and forth like that. Have to be really careful with these eggs. You don't want to mess them up. Alright, so here's my Ball Python clutch from my albino cross to my albino pie. And these kind of shrunk down a little bit from the perlite drying out in here. That's one of the reasons I went to a completely closed system. And usually if they dry out like this much, I've had them hatch with no problem. If they dry out more than this, they get really shrunk down, it can actually kill your hatchlings from not enough humidity, and it kind of just shrinks up the egg. So what I'm gonna do is I want to show you these. We'll take a look at these. That one is good. This one looks good. That one has a lot of veins right there. You can definitely see all the veins. It's kind of weird if you actually try to candle from the bottom. It's like most of the snake is on the bottom of the egg. And there's just a few veins right on top. That's kind of the key, to look just at the top right there. Those are all really good eggs. Alright, so here's a reticulated python box. This just has one egg in it, and one lone egg right at the end. And if you had a dark room, you brought your eggs out, you could go really quick on these. You can just take a look. And you definitely can see some veins. That's a good egg. Alright, so here's another full box of reticulated python eggs. I feel like I'm getting faster. I think these are all good eggs in this one. So we'll take a look real quick. See if we can do it super fast. Veins, veins. Looking good. Looking good. Looking good. Looking good. All right, so here's another box of retic eggs. So another thing that can really get you is if you drop your eggs. This one, so this one, I already pulled 3 eggs out of this one. This was a full box, so all the boxes were full. This is the one that had the moldy eggs, the really super moldy ones. So let's just kind of double check these. Veins are good. You definitely want to see veins. You can definitely see them in that one. Nice. All right, so here's another box. This is the first time I've actually done this. Candling from the top of the egg, which is pretty awesome. So in the past, you know, when I've had a moldy egg or something like that, it's always been, all right, let's try to treat this egg with all these different things, like fungicides or iodine or all this stuff. And the one thing is, if you don't actually go in and look to see if your eggs are viable, you're just kind of wasting your time. You definitely want to candle them before you start a treatment trying to save an egg. All right, so here's the last box of retic eggs, and take a look at that. When I showed this earlier, people were like, hey, you should treat that egg with all this different stuff trying to save the egg. And then I went through and started candling them, and it's like my eyes were like wide open. I was like, what in the world is going on with all these eggs that look like they're good, but they're just completely duds, which is pretty crazy. So I'm gonna just verify these 3. It looks like we got 3 bad ones in here. This is another completely clear one. This one, I'm afraid to touch it. That one's clear. This one, you can see the veins in that one. That one's a good one. And that one is a good one. Wow, so yeah, this is pretty tragic. So let's see if I can get these eggs out of here. All these, they're just all bad. Not developing at all. It's just crazy. Wow. So out of all the eggs that I had, so I had 49 eggs that I put up in the incubator. 12 of them were duds. No veins, not developed. Basically normal looking slugs, I guess you would say, which is kind of the weirdest thing. I think it's pretty rare. Not a lot of people have actually seen this before. Normally you'll have, look at how big that egg is. It's really super huge. It's like almost twice as big as a ball python egg. But unfortunately I pulled 12 duds out of all these boxes. So I'm down to 37 from 49, which is getting smaller and smaller. Hopefully those 37 will hatch without any problems at all. So it's getting less and less as I go through the year. So this is exactly 1 month on these eggs that they've been in the incubator. In reticulated pythons, it takes 3 months. So I have 60 days until these hatch, which is an incredibly long time. I'm glad I found those before I had, you know, a dozen eggs rotting away in my incubator trying to figure out all the treatments, you know, trying to fix all the problems with the eggs. So this makes life a lot easier, candling from the top. All right, guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for coming along, and I will see you in the next video.